Hello, and welcome to another edition of Upon Further Review. First of all, right off the bat, as we always do, we'd like to thank our sponsors. That would be Troy Allen Chevrolet Buick GMC, Conlon Targer, Butler Health System, and Penn United Technologies. I am Derek Pitus, sports writer for the Butler Eagle. On my right is sports editor John Henrietto, and on my left is Mike Kilroy, sports writer. Guys, another week in the books. We had some games last week that kind of went the way we thought they would. A couple surprises. Mike, what stuck out for you about week one?
Saginaw Valley, all of a sudden they can't score. I don't know what's up with that. I mean, they have weapons. They have Gabe Lawson. They got Matt Stanger. I know they have decent receiving core, but 7 points, they can't. I mean, that's got to be a big concern for Saginaw Valley right now that they can't put points on the board, because that's something they've been doing quite well over the past few years. Their defense is playing well, but they have to find a way to get their offense going. That really stuck out for me. Carter City did what Carter City does against Punxsutawney. They scored 49. Not quite the 50 burger that we predicted, but 49. Montauk hung with Clarion a little bit. Slippery Rock had a rough fourth quarter. We'll talk about that a little later. It's something they have to correct. They've been turning the ball over a little bit more than I'm sure Coach Wenders would like. And Knox, two big defensive stands for Knox defense at the end of that Blackhawk game. Those are the four things that really stuck out to me in that first or second week. I'm still calling it the first week, but it's the second week.
Second week of games, John, what say you?
Well, I thought a disappointing loss for Freeport. I know there was the first game they didn't play the week 0 game, but going to Derry and when your quarterback throws for 276, an outstanding debut for Garrett Schaffhauser at that position, and you still lose. You know, to me that's got to be a disappointing loss for them. And also, Mike mentioned Reynolds Slipperock. The Reynolds, a quarterback, led up Slipperock 15 to 20 for 188 yards in that game. That disappointed me a little bit. I have high hopes for Slipperock this year. I think they have a good team, but that's the game they let slip away. That I'm sure they'd love to have that one back. Those are the two games that really stand out for me.
Mike already touched upon Knox defense late in that game. 2 stops deep in their own territory. The only other thing I would say that kind of really stuck out is not the fact that Mars lost, but they were up 14-0, and they gave up 36 unanswered points to Moon. It is a non-conference game, as we pointed out last week. They got one more week to kind of right the ship before conference play starts, 2 Fridays from now. But to go down to Moon and to be up 14-0 and give up 36 unanswered points, that can't sit well with Scott Heinauer. But as he mentioned to our own Steve Sukovich, who covered that game, actually it was Josh Rizzo. Josh Rizzo covered that game.
Josh Rizzo.
He said, it's non-conference. He doesn't get too bent out of shape about a loss in non-conference. I'll go back to the drawing board. We'll see if they can get things.
Well, the big
this week.
thing that killed them in that game was turnovers. So they kept turning the ball over. I mean, I think that's why they stopped scoring. They turned the ball over too many times. I think 4 turnovers or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not like Mars to do that.
And Scott Heinauer's philosophy in these non-section games have always been let's iron out some of these kinks. So now, and the only way you find out what your kinks are is to have them happen in a game. Obviously, it happened against Moon. So, Scott Heinauer's and his staff are all great coaches, good caliber coaches. They'll figure it out. And I'm not concerned about Mars.
All right, we're going to move into a topic here that I know is near and dear to John's heart. We're going to talk about the mercy rule.
No mercy.
There's pretty much a mercy rule in this state in every sport. Am I right?
There is, yeah, there is.
At some point,
Except
I don't know if soccer didn't have
Except
one.
for soccer. And I'm going to talk about soccer because there should be one in soccer.
it's kind of I mean, soccer pretty much has a running clock almost all the time anyway. But we're gonna first focus on football here. The rule in this state is if the game gets to be 35 points in the second half, the running clock, and even if the team that's down closes the gap, that running clock remains going.
That's true.
So, John, we're going to throw it to you because I know you have your opinion on this. What do you think about
Let me get my popcorn ready.
Well, anyone who read my column a couple weeks ago knows my thoughts on this. I think the mercy rule in high school sports is ridiculous. With the exception, I will modify that for 2 sports, baseball and softball, those 2 sports, because there's no clock in those sports. So you could actually have a baseball and softball game that could go on for a long, long time if a team keeps piling on runs. So I can understand having it maybe in those 2 sports. But any sport that has a clock where the game's only going to go so long anyways, no matter what the score is, I don't see the purpose. I mean, if you lose in football, if you lose 48-0 or you lose 62-0. You know, who cares? What's the difference? I mean, the kids don't care. Kids want to play. They want to play. I'll guarantee. I'll guarantee. You ask any high school football player who's on the field in the second half of a Mercy Rule game with the clock running, if they like it, I'd almost guarantee you every kid's gonna say this is ridiculous.
That's what the JV games are for. The JV games are for those kids to get time on the field, not a 48-0 varsity game.
A lot of schools don't have JV anymore. A lot of schools don't have them. The numbers are down. Butler doesn't have a JV team. A lot of schools don't have JV teams anymore.
And I take it JV games have Mercy Rule. I would think if high school.
I'm assuming that there's a Mercy Rule at every level, probably including junior high. But play the game. I mean, you got 4 12-minute quarters. How long is the game going to be? I mean, even if you play it out, you're looking at what, 2 hours, 20 minutes tops. Just play it out.
You're missing the point of the Mercy Rule. It's not to shorten the game. It's to not have kids get beat up and hurt when they're clearly overmatched. That's what a Mercy Rule is.
The Mercy Rule is to shorten the game because of a lopsided score.
No, the Mercy Rule is a safety thing to shorten the game so kids who are clearly overmatched don't get hurt. That's what the Mercy Rule's for. So you don't see a 90-0 game.
Coaches should be
so you don't see kids getting hurt when they're going up against clearly superior teams. That's what the Mercy Rule's for.
Coaches should be able to police that themselves without a mercy clock running.
Like
when a game is out of hand, starters come out of the game. Simple as that.
Yeah, but sometimes the third string guys on inferior teams there's still quite a big gap between their talent level and the other talent level. That's what the Mercy Rule is there for a reason, and it
I'm losing control of the show here, Mike. You want to mention something about soccer?
Soccer. John wants some sports to have mercy, and some sports don't.
Just sports with no clock. Just sports with no clock.
Well, there should be one in soccer, because how many soccer games have we all covered where it's 8-0 at halftime, and they keep playing the second half, and you just see kick the ball. Let's just get out of here. Kick the ball. Just end it like baseball.
I was going to say, what would the mercy clock be?
If you're down by, I'll be even more generous. 10 goals in the second half. The game's over. If someone scores the 10th goal, you're up by 10. Say it's 10-0, 11-1. It's over. Blow the whistle. It's over.
Then why don't you just stop the football game then? I mean, if the mercy clock is invoked in football, and because the game's out of hand, and you see you don't want to see people get just end the game, just stop the game right there.
That's the solution.
The game's over.
Yeah.
The game's over.
Game's over at halftime.
My take.
I'm fine with that.
There's a lot of different variables when you look at the Mercy Rule. I mean, what about the single A teams, the real small schools that are dressing 22 kids, and an injury to a team like Seneca Valley, might not, depending on who it comes to, might not be big. But when you're talking about those smaller schools, just the fact that it's a healthy body, that can mean a lot to them. I mean, and if he goes down, you lose 2 or 3 guys because you have to play an extra 20, 25 plays in the game because of the Mercy Rule. What do you say to the single A teams that are dressing 22, 23 kids every week?
Yeah, some of these teams don't have backups to play in the fourth quarter.
Why is the game going on then? Why is the game going on?
Exactly.
Why do you have? I mean, I agree with you, Mike. If you're going to have a Mercy Rule, just end the game. I mean, why turn it into a farce of a running clock? Why even go through the motions that way? Just if a game is out of hand and there's that much concern, just stop playing. Period. Game's over.
Okay.
What about that?
So no argument there.
You're not for the Mercy Rule, but you are for stopping a game.
I'm not for either one, but I'm saying, but to me, if you're going to have a Mercy Rule concept, to me, stopping the game makes more sense than playing on under the farce of a running clock. That's what I'm saying.
I want to bring up one more point where you said basically it's the coach who's responsible for putting his backups in.
I'm saying coaches should be able to police that themselves.
Right, but
the reason a Mercy Rule even came into play, and this is a sad commentary maybe on today's prep sports, is because too many coaches haven't policed it.
I don't think it was because of that. It was for safety. It wasn't because scores were out of hand or... It was a safety thing because these kids were getting beat up in the second half of these games that were 48-0. It's a safety issue more than a score issue or a competitive balance issue.
I want to bring up one game that I remember covering a few years ago. Seneca Valley played Fox Chapel. John and I've told you about this game many times.
Yep.
Seneca Valley's up big late. Don Hall, who was the coach at the time, puts his backups in.
Mm-hmm.
Fox Chapel, who was not headed to the playoffs, this was their last game of the season. Their coach at the time was Eric Ravati, former Pittsburgh Steeler. did not put his backups in because most of his seniors were the starters who were on the field, and this was their last game. So that's a case where you could say, look, coach, the other coach put his backups in, but I think a coach should be able to say, no, I'm not putting my backups in. This is my senior's last game. They don't want to end the game on the bench. They want to end their season, their career on the field. So, like I said, there's a lot of variables there.
Here's what should be done. I mean, we're not talking this isn't the NFL. This isn't major college football. This is high school football. When you have a score that's out of hand, say at halftime, all right, and the teams are leaving the field at halftime, and say the score. Well, I'll give you a prime example: the Baldwin Butler game Friday night. Baldwin's up 42-7 at halftime. So you have a mercy clock that's going to start in the second half. The two head coaches, as the teams are leaving the field, should approach each other and say, "How do you want to handle the second half?" I mean, the Butler's coach could explain, you know what, we're trying to build something here. I'd like to leave my starters in. And then the Baldwin coach could answer that by saying, you know what, the game's over. The competitive portion of the game's over. You want to leave your starters in. I can appreciate what you're trying to do. You're trying to get something built here. I'm gonna put in my second teamers or whatever. As long as the coaches are on the same page coming into the second half with how they're going to play out the game. In high school football, that's what should be done. I mean, when the score is that out of hand at halftime, the coaches should get together and figure out how they're going to play it out. That, like I said, this is high school football. It's not the pros. That's
I can buy that.
Point.
But I can tell you that.
But that never happens. Or that should
It does happen.
But that rarely happens. Right.
Ravati and Hall were not on the same page that night. I can tell you.
And that's a shame because they should be on the same page. This is a high school sport.
This is a little bit of a different situation, but I know late in the year, like game 10 of a season, when both teams are in the playoffs and they have to play, sometimes they make an agreement before the game. Okay, we're going to play this whole game with a running clock, or we're not going to play X, Y, and Z players because we want to get them for the playoffs, and they try to match up their reserves the best they can to have somewhat of a competitive game. But I think during a regular season game, I think the last thing the coaches are really worried about at halftime, walking off the field, is, I wonder if I should go over to the other coach and see what he wants to do in the second half.
West Allegheny and North Allegheny tried to play a game last year with a running clock right from the start. You remember?
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that.
It ended up getting nixed, but they tried to do it. Well, unless we want to be here till Wednesday, let's move on to another.
That was a good
topic
discussion.
Here. We've all got coaches in this county that we believe. We think a lot of coaches in this county. There's great coaches. We've covered great coaches, but I want to get you guys' opinion on this. A lot of coaches, you look at their record in a particular season or for their career, and you can say, well, they had a lot of great athletes. How do you guys measure a coach's worth? Mike, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What constitutes a great coach? Because a lot of teams out there that have good records, they also have great athletes. So how do you measure that?
There's a lot of different factors that go into making a coach great. You can even go all the way up to the NFL level. Was Bill Belichick a great coach before Tom Brady? I wouldn't call him great. I would call him good. Sometimes coaches in high school, they have programs that are developed where the kids come up and replace the great kids that left. So it makes them great coaches. I think what makes a great coach is kind of three things. You have to have a program established at the younger levels. Those kids have to know what they're going to do, how to do it when they get up to the high school level. That way these coaches don't have to spend those 2 weeks in preseason teaching them the new offense and what's expected of them at the varsity level. Two, you have to have great assistant coaches. You look at all of our great coaches that we call great, Butler County, what's one thing they have in common? They all have great assistant coaches who've been there for a long, long time. Absolutely. And three, I think you have to be lucky too. You have to get in the right spot at the right time, have the right kind of mix of kids. You have to have the right establishment of a program, and you just have to get lucky. So I think there's only like really a handful of great coaches that you can point to, not just in Butler County but in the whole state. I think one of them might be Scott Heinauer. I mean, consistently year after year after year, they're always in the mix. They're always in the mix. Ed Cano was another one at Carter City. Now he's an assistant coach at Carter City, ironically, but he had a long history of great success at Carter City. I think that's what you need. You need a little bit of luck. You need consistency with your coaching staff, and you just need to build a program that starts back when these kids just start to play football.
John, you covered a lot of football. What do you think when you see a great coach? What do you see?
Well, I think any high school head coach who is called great, and we use Scott Heinauer as that example. I said Scott Heinauer would be the first one to tell you he wouldn't be anywhere near at the success rate that he is without that veteran coaching staff he has. And you know about that staff, Derek. He's had the same group there for a lot of years. Ed Connor the same way at Queen City had the same coordinators for a long time. And I'll give you one example here of this discussion. Jim Rankin. Remember when Jim Rankin was at North Allegheny? The guy
That's a
won.
great example.
Program was great. He comes up to Butler thinking he can turn this thing around, and within a year's time, he doesn't win a game and he bails. I mean, because he saw the same things just aren't in place. I mean, it takes participation from the school. It takes support from the administration. It takes kids wanting to play football. As Mike mentioned, you go down to the youth levels, and it takes a consistent structure from youth ball through junior high through freshman teams, JV teams, varsity teams. It takes a lot. I think it's more a great coach is someone who is given the time and succeeds in building that entire program, that entire structure.
That's one thing we haven't
And
mentioned.
Scott Hunter has done that.
That's one thing we haven't mentioned about great coaching is, wow, they have a really innovative offense, or wow, they have a really great defense. I really think it's such a small percentage of what makes a great coach is the X's and O's.
Sure it is. No question. I mean, all these guys know
Yeah.
the game. They all
know the game,
Yeah.
but offenses are offenses, defenses are defense. There's only so much in high school that you can innovate. It all comes down to, do you have a program from the youth level? Do you have good assistant coaches? And do you have a little bit of luck to have these kids in position and want to play for you, and want to play hard for you, and want to succeed?
I mean, you can look at Knock and their triple option offense. I mean, it's a great offense if you have the personnel and the kids to make it work. Right now, Knock is going through a run of athletes where they can do that. The day may come where they totally change their offense because it just doesn't suit the personnel anymore. That's another thing with offenses.
Scott Heinauer, we mentioned him. I often think back to this season. You look at his record at Mars, and there's been a lot of years where they have 9, 10 wins. They made the Whitfield Championship twice. One of those years was 2002. That was the Brad Mueller year.
Mm-hmm.
Really good defense, great running game. They made the Whitfield Championship. They come back the next year, and they lost a lot of kids to graduation. A lot of new players at new positions, first-year starters. They start out 03, 0-5. 0-5, and that has to be for a young team, for an inexperienced team. I mean, it's hard to tell those kids, look, just listen to us. We're telling you, if we do this, we'll win. You're dealing with a team that's young, inexperienced, and they're looking at an 0-5 record. Well, they turned it around. They won their last 4 games that year, all conference games, and made the playoffs. And that, to me, that's one of the best coaching jobs Heinauer's ever done, even though they ended that year 4-6 overall.
Right. Yeah. Coaches can set up kids to succeed. That's part of what a coach has to do. But it's still ultimately, even though you're dealing with high school kids, you're dealing with teenage boys here. Ultimately, it's up to them to execute and make the plays on the field. The coaches can set them up, put them in the right positions and roles to succeed. But players are the ones on the field to still have to find a way to get the job done.
Yeah, coaches do have to recognize talent and where it belongs best.
Sure. Yep.
That's a little bit of X's and O's, I guess, because look what Mars has done with that fullback position over the years. We can rattle off the names from now until 6 o'clock tonight of all the great running backs. Now Teddy Ruffner's in that spot. But I think a lot of that, too, is Teddy Ruffner, when he was probably 8 years old, he knew that was going to be a position that he could possibly be good at in what, 8 years?
8, 9 years.
Yeah. So knowing that, he knows what to do to put himself in position to be successful too.
On to our favorite segment of the week, over and unders. This week, we're going to talk first about Freeport quarterback Garrett Schaffhauser, first-year starter. This past week on Friday night. Now, they lost to Derry 35-27, but he came out and threw for 276 yards. So I don't expect him to keep that pace up, but I'm going to pose the question to you, John. Does Garrett Schaffhauser, now this is regular season only,
Right.
nine regular season games, does he over or under get to 1,500 yards?
I'm saying under, maybe not under by a lot, but under, that's a lot of yards, and he's going to have some weeks. Again, I think I bring this point up before with some of these over-under questions. You know, at some point, there's going to be rainy nights, there's going to be miserable weather nights, where it's going to be hard to throw the football, and sometimes he's going to be up against a defense that's going to be geared to stop Freeport's passing game that appears to be one of the strong suits of that team this year. So I'm going to say under 1,500.
I'm going over. What? Look, he only needs what? Shade over 1,200 in 8 games now.
He basically needs to average 167 a game.
I think he's going to throw for a ton this week against North Catholic because I think they're going to be behind and they're going to have to throw. I think Freeport's going to be a passing team this year. I just think they are because they know what they have in Garrett Schaffhauser. So I think they're going to throw more. I think he's going to throw for more yards. I can see him going considerably over this.
Okay, I actually am going to side with John here reluctantly.
Gee, thanks, Derek. I appreciate it.
So you're both wrong.
I do think, this was his first game, so it's very impressive to go out and throw for 276 in your first game as a starting quarterback. But I think the upcoming teams that they face are going to get some film on him. They're going to maybe find out some of his tendencies, the tendencies of the wide receivers. And also, Schaffhauser, I didn't find this out until over the weekend. He actually rushed for over 100 yards in that game, too. So he's not Austin Romanchak, the former quarterback, but he's certainly capable of gaining big yards on the ground. So coupled, the fact that he can run the ball coupled with the fact that I think defense is going to wise up to him a little bit, I think he's still going to have a good season. He'll definitely be over 1,000, but I don't think you see him getting to 1,500.
Well, you got a pretty good running back there in Ricky Hunter.
Ricky Hunter.
Ricky Hunter's going to come into the equation as time goes on as well.
Okay, now we're going to move on to something that's going to tell a little about the success of our area teams. 2.5. That's 2.5 conference or region champions. If you're in District 10, it's not conference up there, it's region. Mike, do you see us having over or under 2.5 conference/region champions this season?
This is one of the most challenging over-unders because I've been going back and forth on this over the weekend. 2 or 3, 2 or 3, 2 or 3. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say 3.
I want to clarify these two. By conference, you mean section champions? You mean
conference.
You mean in Whitfield winning a section?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going under. I see 2 teams that could do it, and in my view, obviously there's more that could do it, but 2 teams that realistically have a shot at this.
You learned well from Derek.
And those are more than Slippery Rock. I think as good as Nokia, I don't think they'll beat out South Fayette. And I'm going through. I think when a number of teams make the playoffs, but winning a section and conference titles and other stories, I'm going under.
Okay, I'm gonna. This is tough. This is really tough.
It's a really challenging one.
The team I'm most confident it can and I think will win a conference title is North Catholic.
Yeah, that's
but
the one I had.
After that, I got Knock, Mars, Slippery Rock, and Karn City. Do I got 2 winners out of those 4? I don't think so. Maybe one out of those 4, but not 2. So I'm going to go with 2, and that would be under. So
I had 2. I had 2 out of those.
North Catholic certainly has a shot at winning that section, but don't underestimate that section. That's a pretty good league.
No, I'm just saying, Mike. I think they're going to win it, but it is a pretty good league, absolutely. We're going to move on now to, it says continued on next page.
That's right.
Last week, Scoop did better than week 0, but still not.
He looks right at me. It says week 0.
Not up to his standards, especially after last year. 8-3 last week. Not a bad record, but we know he's capable of better.
Scoop standards up.
Scoop is very disappointing.
Mike, you carried the flag for us last week. You went 9-2.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
John, you, Scoop, and I went 8-3.
Yeah, rough week.
So we're gonna dive into this week's games right off the bat. We got Butler playing their first conference game of the year. Butler at Mount Lebanon. John, you covered Butler. How do you see this one turning out?
Well, pretty good week last week for Cooper Baxter, for Butler's sophomore quarterback, only a second varsity start, runs for over 150 and threw for 104 and 2 touchdowns. And Butler's passing game is making progress. I think they're going to continue to put points up, but they're having problems on defense. Their tackling was shaky against Baldwin last week. Bob Palco is now coaching at Mount Lebanon. He's a difference maker. Everyone knows how successful he was at West Allegheny. I say Mount Lebanon wins this game at home, 38-21.
Mike?
Derek, you wrote down Mount Lebanon for me already, without even hearing my pick yet.
I know the way you go. I know the way you go.
I think Butler's is making a little bit of progress. Like John said, Cooper Baxter. I think he's a real deal there. I'm curious to see just how much better he gets the more he develops. this year. He's going to be a guy that teams are going to have to game plan around. And I don't know when the last time Butler had a guy that you really the coaches really had to be, okay, we cannot let this guy go off. So, but I still think Mount Lebanon's going to have a little too much for Butler this week. But I see a semi-competitive game. I'm going to go Mount Lebanon 40-24.
Okay, I was looking over Mount Lebanon's stats from last week because they played Cannon McMillan, who Seneca Valley is facing this week. So I obviously took an interest in that game. Mount Lebanon had a lot of big scoring plays. I think they had scoring runs of 60 and 45, 60 and 50 yards. I think right off the bat, I think Butler's going to have trouble with that Lebo running game. I have Mount Lebanon winning this game 38-13.
Before you move on to the next game, I do want to mention that game. It's called a Green Out Night, so any Butler fans who are planning on making that trip, they're encouraged to wear green in support of the Mount Lebanon principal, who's sadly fighting pancreatic cancer. Poor diagnosis for him, and they're having a fundraiser down there that involves wearing green. Both teams are taking part in that, so hopefully Butler fans will participate and wear green if you're going to Lebo on Friday.
Wear green.
There you go.
Seneca Valley, a battle of two 0-2 teams here. Seneca Valley traveling south on 79 to battle Cannon McMillan. John, one of these teams is going to come out with a win. One of them is going to be 0-3. What do you think?
The winner is going to be Seneca Valley. I don't like Kinnamac's defense. You just touched on Mount Lebanon gashed them for a lot of big plays. I think Seneca Valley can do the same thing. This is a week where Seneca Valley is struggling offense, gets a little bit healthy. I pick Seneca 28-14.
Mike?
Yeah, this is a week. I think Seneca's offense finally gets going, gets a little bit of confidence going forward. Like you mentioned, Cannon-Mac has a propensity to give up some big plays. Seneca desperately needs a few of those to kind of get their mojo back. I think they do. I think Seneca finally maybe figure out this offense. I think they put up 35 to 21. 35 points for Seneca.
Seneca Valley's passing game, even though they got beat up pretty good at McDowell in week 0, their passing game actually impressed me. They hit some long passes. Their running game has yet to really do much, even though they've scored 3 touchdowns this year, and 2 of them have come on the ground. Actually, all 3 of them have come on the ground. But yardage-wise, they're averaging maybe 2 yards a carry. I think this is the week that their ground game gets going, and I see Seneca Valley winning this one. Not too much trouble right from the start, 30-17. I think Matt Stanger has a big game this week.
Do you realize every time you say week 0, it's like you stabbing Mike somewhere?
Yes, he looks at
Absolutely.
Mike.
Mike's like cringing every
He
time
gives
you
me a
say
little
week 0.
glance every time he says week 0. It's like
Yeah.
sticking a knife in it, just turning it just a little bit. That's all right. I've already resigned myself to the fact that I'm not going to win this week 0 argument. So.
Mars is hosting Greensburg-Salem. Back at the beginning of the season, we talked about Scott Heinauer. Said we got 3 weeks to get ready for the conference schedule. Week 1, they win. Week 2, week 0, they win. Week 1, they lose. They're coming off that loss to the moon. So now they got this 3rd non-conference game to start the season. They're hosting Greensburg-Salem. Mike, does Greensburg-Salem have a shot in this game?
They do. They have a shot, but I think Mars figured out a lot from that 36-14 loss last week. Like I said earlier, I think Scott Heinauer was really good at, all right, going back, what did we do wrong? What do we have to shore up? And they're going to shore things up against Greensburg-Salem. But Greensburg-Salem always gives them trouble. I remember covering a couple of games in Greensburg where they hung around with Mars. It's a matchup that I think confounds Mars a little bit. But I think Teddy Ruffner gets it going again. He's going to score a few more touchdowns, add to his point total this year. I see Mars coming out on top, 26-12. I'll do a little weird score there.
Johnny, you a Planet fan this week?
I'm definitely a Planet fan this week. Scott Heinauer, I know he put on a happy face with his quotes and Josh was his story last week. I'll guarantee you Scott is not happy with giving up 36 consecutive points after 14-0 lead, whether it's a non-conference game or a section game. He didn't like it. Practice sessions at Mars this week, I imagine, would be probably being pretty spirited. Greensburg-Salem's going to pay for it. I pick Mars 34-13.
I don't really need to elaborate on what you guys said. I agree with everything. Mars wins at home. Hall of Fame night, by the way, at Mars. And I think they celebrate with a 33-10 victory. everybody's favorite these days, Knock, hosting
Bandwagon is full.
a Northwest 8 conference game. That's what
There
it's
you
called
go.
these
That's
days.
right, Northwest State.
They're hosting Beaver. Knock coming off a pretty impressive win in which they had 2 defensive stops late in their own territory. They're hosting Beaver this week. Mike does not come out of this game 3-0.
Yes, they do, because of that defense. And we've talked a lot about their offense, about the triple option, how hard it is to prepare for, all the weapons they have, with Goodwin and Schreckengost had a big game last week. He had a big long touchdown pass. But that defense is where Knock is going to win their games this year. First quarter they held Blackhawk to 2 yards last week, but then Blackhawk got their stud running back going and it made it a little interesting. But I think this week Knock's defense is going to be even better. I'm not predicting a shutout. I'm not going to predict a shutout this week, but I still think Knock holds down Beaver. I think Knock wins this one 22-8. I'm going with weird scores this week.
Knock or Beaver?
Going with Knock. Beaver was 7-4 last year, but they lost a ton. They lost their starting quarterback. They lost their top 3 running backs. They lost 3 of the top 4 receivers from last season. They only have 4 starters back on both sides of the football. And South Fayette hung a 55-6 beating on them last week. The old Mercer will come into play there. So I'm picking Knock. So I'm picking Knock. But I think Beaver will hang in. But I'm picking Knock 27-14.
I have Knock winning. I think it's going to be a little closer, 28-20. Knights. All right, this is an interesting game here. It's 2 area teams for us, 2 local teams. North Catholic at Freeport. This is a Big East conference. I got to keep these conferences straight. Big East conference. It's Pitt and Rutgers. It's North Catholic at Freeport. North Catholic and both teams are actually coming off their first game of the year. Freeport lost last week, tough game at Derry, and North Catholic rolled over Burrell. John, who comes out of this game with 2 wins? No, North Catholic has already got a win.
North Catholic
It's the second game for both.
Second game
It's
for
a true
both.
week 2. True week 2
That's
for
it.
those teams.
Beware of flying footballs because they're going to be sailing around down there. Mike's going to.
I might not be back till 11.
You might wear some kind of helmet or something because there can be footballs
I
flying
might
all
not
over
be
the
back
place.
till really late.
Yeah, I'm picking North Catholic though. I think they have a little bit too much for the Yellow Jackets offensively and defensively. I'm picking North Catholic, but it will be somewhat of a shootout, 35-21 NC.
Mike, you agree with John?
Yes, I agree that North Catholic's going to win, and I agree that there's going to be a lot of footballs flying through the air in this game. But it's going to come down to, again, who's the more seasoned quarterback? Zach Rocco in his 3rd year as a starter, or Garrett Schaffhauser in his 2nd game as a quarterback. No slight against Schaffhauser, because I think he's going to put up some numbers too. But you have to go with North Catholic and Zach Rocco in this one. I think it is going to be a shootout. I'm going to say 42-28 North Catholic.
I see North Catholic winning this game, but I think Freeport's able to keep it closer. I hear that I've never been down there to cover a game. I hear it's a high energy place down there in Buffalo.
It is. I've been there a couple times. Yep.
I do have the Trojans winning this game though, 28-14. I think I think Freeport will keep it close for most of the game, but I think in the end North Catholic will be too much. All right, we've talked all the last few weeks anyway, all off season actually. We talked amongst ourselves how we thought Karn City's going to be back. They're going to be back. They're going to have a good season. Well, we all think they're going to have a good season, but if they are to win that league, District 9 large school division, you would think they have to win this game at Clarion on Friday.
They absolutely have to win this game.
No doubt about that.
And that's a big test. And we got Clarion basically has players from 3 different schools. Austin Newcomb, we talked about him last year, rushed for 2,600 yards. John, what kind of chances do you give Karn City at Clarion on Friday?
Well, I give them a shot. In fact, I think that this will be the game of the week. I think
Clarion's the game of the week.
This is going to be an outstanding football game. I think Karn City. They're back to being Karn City, and their confidence level's high. They're going to go up there. They won't be intimidated by Clarion in any way, shape, or form. But Clarion is so versatile. You mentioned Austin Newcomb. They also have this quarterback, Kyle German, 246 yards passing last week, 4 touchdown passes in there, went over Montauk. They're just loaded. I think they're a little more versatile, but I think it's a 1-score game. I'm picking Clarion 28-23.
Yeah, everyone wants to focus on Newcomb, but it's their quarterback that's going to be key to Clarion this year. Because Newcomb's going to get his yards. He's a legit, District 9 record holder for single season yardage last year.
He can catch the ball too.
He can catch the ball. The Clarion, what makes Clarion so dangerous is that quarterback, German. Because if you try to stop the run, they're going to throw. If you try to stop the pass, they're going to run on you. There's no real easy way to stop Clarion. The only way you can beat Clarion is to control the ball on offense and score every time you have the ball. And that's really that's how you do it. Long, sustained 9-minute drives. And then, you know what? That's something Carter City can do this year. Carter City has the ability to just grind out first downs and grind out yards and score every time they touch the ball. That's why I'm picking Carter City.
Oh, we're going
I'm
upstairs.
picking Carter City because I think you see that's why you don't write down. That's why you don't write down so early. It's going to be a close game, obviously. I think Carter City is going to be able to frustrate Clarion by keeping the ball away from their offense. So I think it's going to be a fairly low-scoring game. I think Carter City wins 28-21. I think they're going to keep the ball away just enough and give themselves a chance to win late. And they're going to win.
Carter City's back there for real. I just think that this week Clarion's got a little too much for them. Although I will say this, I know we're early in the season here, but this could be a preview of they're in the
very much so.
Later down the road. But for this week, I got Clarion winning 34-17 up at the beautiful confines of Clarion Memorial Stadium.
There you go.
I love that place, John. You know that.
I know you do.
We got another D9 game on tap here. Ridgeway at Montauk. Does Montauk get their first win of the year, Mike?
Unfortunately, I have to say no. But I also have to give a shout out to a couple of Montauk dignitaries watching right now, Michael Jewett and Ryan Protzman. But I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to have to go against Montauk. I just don't like where Montauk is right now. I know they played Clarion pretty tough for a quarter into the second quarter before it got out of hand, but I just don't know. I think there's something missing at Montauk this year. I just don't know what it is, so I'm going to have to go with Ridgeway. I'm going to still. It's going to be a close game, 18-16 Ridgeway. Again, you wrote down Montauk.
I'm having brain farts here. I'm sorry. John, you agree with Mike?
Well, first off, I'm going to throw a little bit of respect to Johnsonburg here, and I know they're officially called Ridgeway, but I'm still calling them Ridgeway / Johnsonburg. That's what they are, so I'm going to call them that. But anyway, Montauk is catching Ridgeway at a bad time. The reason I say that is last week Ridgeway coughed up a 25-21 loss to Kane on a 95-yard touchdown pass late. So Ridgeway is going to be seeing red all week. They're going to take it out on the Warriors, but I think Montauk will show improvement this week, particularly on offense. I'm picking Ridgeway to win 30-20.
So when we picked that Carter City Clarion game, we picked Clarion, North Clarion, CL to beat Carter City.
That's right. That's what it should be. That's what it should be.
I'm agreeing with both of you. I got Ridgeway winning 26-16. 0-3 start. It's not what Bob Rotten wants, that's for sure.
I'm surprised, but I thought it would come out of the gate a little bit stronger. Like I said, there's just something missing there, and until they find it, I can't go with them right now.
Franklin at Slippery Rock. This is an interesting game. Is Ian Haynes healthy? Do you know that?
I do not know that yet.
Okay, because last
I'm trying
week
to find that out.
they looked like they played a pretty ordinary game against Oil City. This all-world quarterback for Franklin, Ian Haynes, breaking District 10 records, single-season career records at Franklin.
Something was amiss there.
They lost 27-16 to Oil City last week. Mike, we'll go to you first.
Oil City is improved this year, so
right.
That could be part of it. But yeah, that score kind of caught me by surprise too. But so it's hard to predict this because something is up there. That score just did not kind of mesh with what you would think a score in that game would be. But I think Slippery Rock's got to worry about Slippery Rock right now. They had a tough loss. They were up 21-13 late against against Reynolds and drew a blank, and then they coughed up 2 touchdowns. One of them was again another late turnover, kind of bit them. So they have to figure that out because they have the talent. We've talked about them. They have the talent to do some really good things this year, but they have to hang on to the football and they have to preserve leads late, and they didn't do that last week. But knowing Coach Larry Wenderoos, I know he's spending a lot of time this week trying to shore that up. So I think they will be. I think they will figure things out, and I think depending on the status of Haynes, whether he plays or not, I don't know if it really matters in the outcome of the game. I still think Siprock's going to come out on top. I'm going to say 29-22. They'll go on weird score again.
The Rockets fly on Friday?
I think they do. I think, again, I'm counting on Siprock to bounce back. A very tough loss for them. I think they're much better than what they played last week. And Franklin, the quarterback being healthy or not is a factor. Franklin will score their points, not as many as Siprock. I like the Rockets at 34-21.
Yeah, none of us know if Haynes played last week, if he played, how long he did. I do know this: Oil City had 7 sacks in that game.
Yeah,
7 sacks.
Like I said, Oil City is better
Right.
this year. They've made some strides, so maybe that was part of it too. But
If they're having trouble with protection, you know Wonder Years is going to be going after them.
and Siprock's got the defensive personnel to pressure him too.
I like Slippery Rock in this game, even if Haynes is playing. I'll assume he is. I have him winning 24-17 at home. Go Rockets.
Ryan Prossman gave you some support there. He said you're doing a good job in that middle seat. So
Thanks. Well,
Oh, there you go.
good job.
I'm in the hot seat this week.
You are not.
We got Kerwinsville at Union AC Valley last week. This past Saturday, actually, Union AC needed a late score to beat Sheffield.
They did.
And Sheffield had lost 20 straight games. What's going on with this, Michael? I mean, you like this week? They're hosting Kerwinsville this week. You like the Falcons?
This game, I have no idea what's going to happen. I really don't. I think you can take a coin and flip it. But Union AC Valley, they got to figure things out. They can't run the ball. That's one of their big issues. To need to come back against Sheffield, no, we don't know. I mean, it's really early in the season. Sheffield may be a lot better than what their past resume has told us. So it's hard to. That's what the thing. Trying to predict these games early in the season. Teams change so much from year to year, and still we don't know a lot about some of these teams. So, but I'm going to go with Kerwinsville. I think Kerwinsville wins 19-15. Another strange score. And the strange score, Mike, this week.
Kerwinsville or Union AC?
Well, Kerwinsville's coming off a 20-0 shutout over Cameron County, but Cameron County is not particularly strong program, at least not usually.
What are you saying?
Impressive effort by Kerwinsville's defense. I think low-scoring game, but I think Union East Valley gets a win at home. I'm picking the Falcon Knights 14-12 in what should be a tight, low-scoring ball game.
I think the Golden Tide is going to be a little too much for the Falcon Knights this week.
Okay.
24-12 Kerwinsville. They'll go back home on I-80 happy this week. And this is a Saturday game. Washington at Summit Academy, 12:30 special out in Herman. Summit still looking for their first win of the year. Do they get it this week against the Prexies?
No. They do not get it. Prexies are the wrong team to be looking for your first win against. It's just too strong. It's just a powerhouse. Washington has been a powerhouse small school program for a long time, and this year's no exception. I expect them to roll 44-12.
Mike?
I'm picking Summit because you wrote down Summit. No, he wrote down Summit. I'm picking
Wash High.
Of course, Wash High is going to win this game. Really, for Summit, it's not always about the wins and losses, especially early in the season. It's about getting these guys together to be a team, to play for each other. And I think that's what Joe Merrick is really, it's his top priority, is to change these kids' lives. The results on the field is secondary. That being said, this is not a good game to judge from the final score because it's going to be ugly. I think Wash High is going to win 55-8.
See, take out the Mercy rule, they could play the team a lot longer.
I got
Sorry, win that argument, John.
Sorry. Okay.
I got Washington winning this game 30-8. I think Summit, as always, they almost always show progress by the end of the season.
They do.
And I think just by keeping this game close, because Washington's really good, I think they'll show progress this week, but they'll fall by 22 to the Prexies. All right,
No mercy rule in that game.
No mercy rule. No moss. We're going to talk about the Seneca Valley boys golf team, 6-0, and if my math is correct, which you never know with me, they're averaging 189 per match. John, that is pretty impressive.
It's incredible, really. But
That's what I averaged per 18 holes.
If you look at their lineup, Todd Hanglader, Ryan Bartos, Jimmy Stoltenberg, Trevor Bellotto, Austin Albert, pretty much every match, at least 3 of those kids are below 40. Usually 4 of them are, and you can almost mix and match them because every now and then one of them might shoot a 41 or a 42, but the other 4 will pick them up. This is a loaded team, an outstanding golf team. I don't see that average score. Frankly, I don't see it going up as the year goes on. I really don't.
Mike, you're a former high school golfer.
Yes, I am. I'm a former high school golfer. At least that was the rumor.
Well, insert your comment here.
Insert my comment here.
Insert comment.
What makes great golf teams isn't just your one guy who shoots a 35 or your 2 guys who shoot 35, 37. It's your 5th guy who shoots the 39. That's what makes you a great golf team. And that's what Seneca Valley has. And like John said, they're all interchangeable. One day one guy will have a 35 and be the medalist. Next day he'll shoot a 39 and be the fourth guy on the team. That's how good they are. They're solid from 1 to 5. That's what makes a great golf team. That's what gets you the 189 average. When I was golfing in high school, we had one guy who was really good, and then a bunch of B's out there shooting 50 for
I was gonna say, were you the one guy who was really good? I guess not.
No, this is a funny story. The one time I had the golf, the nine. We only played 9 holes like these guys did. I had the 9 holes of my life at Kent State University's golf course, par 34. I shot 34. I shot par.
There you go.
So I come into the clubhouse, I'm all beaming. I give my coach my scorecard and said, I think we broke our losing streak because we lost like 20 something in a row by then. Give him my scorecard. I'm all proud of myself because I'm usually the guy that, if we have 2 guys shooting a 34, we're probably going to win. And he looks at my scorecard and he goes, his head drops. I go, what's wrong? Our number 1 golfer shot 55. So basically we just flipped. So it didn't matter.
There you go.
So that's how golf teams lose. Seneca Valley has 5 guys shooting 34s, 35, 36s, and that's why they're shooting 189. So that's what makes a great golf team.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder, but I'm the guy in the middle, so I talk last on every subject.
So your thunder is stolen a lot.
That's okay. Ryan Bartos, Todd Hanglater, and Jimmy, this is my favorite one, Jimmy Stoltenberg.
Mm-hmm.
That just speaks Seneca Golf. That name just has Seneca Golf written all over. All 3 of those kids have led the team.
Not sure if I follow that, but
at one time this year, they've each led the team. This is not we see high school golf teams where a kid goes out and shoots 37, 38, 36, and he, as Mike said, he leads the team every week. This team is versatile. They have other kids that, if one kid has a bit of an off day and shoots a 39 or a 40, which for us would be incredible.
Yeah.
They have another kid to pick up the slack and shoot that 35 or 36. So I'm anxious to see what this team can do moving forward. They've beaten NA, and them and NA is a big rock. When it comes to golf, a lot of times you see Seneca's schedule, the one team they lose to during their seasons, NA. They've already beaten NA. So I'm anxious to see what this group can do moving forward.
I'll tell you what, when you have a lineup as deep as theirs, I just don't see them losing. I really don't. At least not in the regular season.
No, they're almost insulated because if one guy has a bad 9 holes, then you have other guys to pick him up. Whereas in my situation, in my golf team, when our number 1 guy had a bad match like he did and then I lost, it was over. I mean, we didn't have a chance.
Plus, one guy has a bad hole on this team. It's like to shoot a 42.
Yeah.
like that's a bad round.
True, a bad round is low 40s, which was a good round for a lot of people.
That does it this week. Join us next week when the big man is back in the hot seat.
That's right.
For another edition of Upon Further Review.